Like a vampire, I don't need to know you. Come with me, I'll show you. You can find me backstage, I'm a party with a Nicolas Cage. Girl, I want that body, you know you got a body like Nicolas Cage. You ain't gotta be scared, you ain't gotta be afraid, baby. It's just you and me alone tonight with Nicolas Cage. Hey, this is Late Night Cage Fight. This is finally the Longlegs episode with a little touch of Arcadian. I'm here with the biggest Nic Cage fans on the planet. We got Cagefighter Steve, Cagefighter Sean, and a very special Cagefighter guest this evening. Cagefighter, can you guess his name? That's right. It's Nick. How we doing?
Oh man, you can't say Nick and then it's not him. I'm great. Thank you for having me.
That's true. It's not the actual Nick. We have been knocking at his door for a while. We usually send Steve over.
Yeah, I've been knocking on his door, and every time, like, for whatever reason, he won't answer, but I've gotten like 3 of these letters in the mail.
Yeah.
I don't know, something about like cease and desist and restraining order, and one more time you're going to jail. I don't know. I don't read that shit.
I'm pretty sure those are optional, so you can just disregard.
Yeah.
I know Nick loves me, and it's probably just a mistake.
So Nick was with us when we watched Arcadian. I think this was last week.
It was, yeah.
So this was Nic Cage's most recent A Quiet Place kind of ripoff movie, if I can say that.
I would agree with that.
Although
I don't know if I would consider it a ripoff. It was kind of like a post prequel.
Okay, all right. See, I've only seen the
Technically,
first.
Quiet Place was the ripoff from Nic Cage, but his just came out afterwards.
Yeah, we know that.
I have been describing it as we have a quiet place at home.
We have a quiet place at home. I like that. And we did get to watch it from home. So
we did, yeah.
Thanks
Thanks to Shudder for never stop being amazing.
And Sean, you were there for that as well. You experienced that with us.
I was there and got to experience Cage in all of his post-apocalyptic glory.
Right. And then the following week, which would have been this last week, we each went and watched Longlegs separately at the theater. Look at those box office numbers. Longlegs looks like it is a hit. Really cool to see. People are coming out. How do you guys feel about that? How was your theater experience? Minus Steve. We know Steve didn't go.
Honestly, I feel like Longlegs was one of the most enjoyable horror movie experiences I've seen in a while.
Nice.
And we'll get into our thoughts briefly, but I really did feel like it kept up the tension. So definitely on the edge of my seat the whole time.
Nice. I might agree with that myself. However, I can't remember the last horror film I enjoyed in a theater. So there's that.
Mine was probably Evil Dead.
I had to tell a bunch of teenagers to shut up.
Oh, that's always
several
fun.
times.
Did they do it?
Yeah, it was. So it worked the first time for about 5 minutes, and then they kept talking again. So then I turned around and was a little bit more aggressive the second time, and that shut them up for the rest of the movie. But it was just the first, probably the first third. There was constant whispering and chuckling and obnoxious noise, but after that, once I got them to stop, the rest of the theater experience was really nice. This is probably the best movie for a theater experience that I've seen since Hereditary.
Yeah, regretfully I didn't get to see that in the theater.
I'd just like to take a moment and this is a PSA from the Cagefighter crew. Don't talk during movies because we will cage fight you.
Please.
Right.
We will cage fight you.
Yeah. In public. We will do it.
Loudly. Which kind of goes against the point.
So, Nick, why don't you tell us a little bit about your history with Nicolas Cage, his movies, his effect on your life? What has Nicolas Cage done for you?
So it goes back. I'm 31. It goes back 31 years. When I guess it goes back further than that, because my mother watched Moonstruck in the theater. When did that come out? Was that an 80s joint or was that a 90s joint?
I believe it was late 80s.
Okay, so my mom saw Moonstruck in the theater and was so taken with Sir Nicolas Cage, not knighted, that she named her child Nick. I am a Nicholas named after Cage, but I do have an H, so I'm not like a proper Nick, but that was the compromise. My dad was like, we can't name him the same spelling as Nic Cage because it's weird that there's no H. So I am mostly a Nic Cage namesake. But then, so she told me that story, probably I was 10 or 11 years old.
Yeah.
And we were watching
Time to Kill.
That probably would have... No, definitely not. I think it would have been National Treasure. We were watching National Treasure, and she goes, oh, yeah, I named you after this guy.
Wow.
And I'm like, what the hell? That's so crazy. So then I started watching like every Nic Cage movie I could get my hands on at the local library.
Yeah.
Some of which I was not old enough to feasibly be watching. Like I saw Face Off way too young.
Me too.
Definitely saw Con Air way too young to even understand why all the people were bad on the plane. They just made me laugh. But no, after she told me that and I started watching his movies, I never stopped, and he's kind of been one of my favorite actors, definitely most interesting actors of our time.
Right.
I remember the first time that I saw Bad Lieutenant, Port of Call, New Orleans, one of the greatest films ever made. I was like, yep, this is like part of my identity now. Like, I'm not just a fan. Like, this dude is part of my identity.
That's awesome. So I don't know if Steve ever told you the genesis of this podcast, how it all kind of came together.
I'm sure he has, but I may have been drunk.
That's part of the genesis.
So it actually started as so we had a good friend in college who was very adamant that we had to watch Nic Cage movies, and we started this thing called Nic Cage Appreciation Night, where we would watch between 2 and 3 Nic Cage movies, and these nights became very memorable for us.
Oh,
right, Steve?
absolutely. Absolutely.
But it also woke us up to the range of parts of characters that Nic Cage has had over the years that we had not been quite aware of. And it just kind of opened our minds to this fact that Nic Cage is probably the most unique working actor out there today. And
maybe of all time?
Maybe of all time. Certainly an interesting person as well. When you watch his interviews, you listen to his personal interests, and it's just like, this guy is cool, enigmatic, he's talented, he's sometimes broke, he's buying obnoxiously expensive things, he's having shotgun weddings. What the hell is going on? He's in amazing movies, he's in amazingly bad movies. He'll do 5 movies a year. That it's batshit insanity, and that's why we love Nic Cage, and we're happy to keep talking about his movies and kind of ranking them as we go along. So the question will be where these 2 films fall into the rankings. However, we are working chronologically, so when we designate numbers, they'll just kind of fall into place, I guess, later when we reach that era of Nick, so to speak. But we're excited to talk about these movies because they are new. And new Nic Cage is so radically different than Golden Age of Cage. Would you guys agree with that statement?
For sure.
Oh, yeah.
He's definitely been doing a lot outside of his comfort zone, and What I appreciate about Cage is that, especially more recently, he's just been taking up projects that he finds interesting.
Yeah, I think that's it. There was a period where he just kind of went through like doing whatever was thrown at him.
Yeah.
Like almost like he was just starved. But like now he seems to be taking like a more serious effort to like pick out fun roles, not even necessarily like good ones or high paying ones, just things that are fun.
Right.
And I think he's also been producing a lot of these lately because he like got out of debt.
Right, he was one of the producers of what we're going to talk about, Arcadian, I noticed.
He was also listed as a producer in Longlegs, which I thought was really interesting because that was a proper like neon indie horror film.
Yeah.
I think this is also kind of an interesting matchup because these are both movies that, going into, the marketing intentionally didn't really show a whole lot for either of them.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think we're going to talk about expectations a lot when we talk about these movies, because I know I had radically different expectations for both films, and then each film kind of delivered something I did not see coming.
I think that'll also be interesting because I think some of us went into this movie with both of these movies really with different expectations, because I mean, for both of these I went in completely blind and had not even seen any of the trailers or anything for either, so that also may have affected my opinions.
Arcadian, I believe I had seen some kind of teaser trailer.
I saw a trailer. I don't know if it was a teaser or a proper trailer.
Did you see Nick in the trailer?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think I saw that.
I watched the trailer,
but let's go ahead then. Let's
brief.
It was a pretty short trailer.
Let's dive into Arcadian. So Arcadian 2024, how would you describe it? Horror, thriller, post-apocalyptic?
Post-apocalypse survival thriller.
Yes.
Horror.
We got a one-sentence tagline here. A father and his twin teenage sons, mutant ninja turtles, fight to survive in a remote farmhouse at the end of the world. Simon Pegg is not in this film. Directed by Benjamin Brewer. Anyone else familiar with this director?
Not at all.
Yeah, me neither. Written by
He's a guy.
Mike Nylon, another guy. And I believe the only recognizable actor was Nicolas Cage. Am I wrong?
I knew of Jaden Martell from the new It movies, as well as Knives Out.
That's right. You did mention
but
that.
None of the other people in this movie were familiar to me.
And then how about the theatrical release? Do we know much about that? Yeah. I mean, it definitely did not receive...
Or was it exclusive to Shudder, or did it have a...
I think it did come out in the theater, but it was probably brief, if I had to guess.
Yeah, I agree. And that was one I also wanted to see in the theater, but sadly did not. We shuddered it together, so to speak. And boy, was I shuddering. Hey, can I just start with what my expectations were for Arcadian?
Yeah, go for it.
I literally thought this was going to be Nic Cage and some kids in a house. Scary stuff happening outside. We know that the world's gone to shit. Maybe there's some clues about it. Creepy things kind of get in. And then it just kind of ends unresolved. I thought it was going to be a lesser version kind of that last Cloverfield movie with John Goodman.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, those were my expectations. So when it transitioned into, as Nick said, A Quiet Place at Home / monster movie, that may not have been the direction a lot of folks liked, but for me, I was excited because I knew then that this movie was going to get a lot more entertaining, which it did.
Entertaining is the word I would use for it.
Yeah.
Those creatures, man.
I want one as a pet.
We were belly laughing. Yeah, I agree.
I want
What's
one
that,
as a
Steve?
was
pet.
definitely a decision.
Yeah, those would be like the coolest.
Nightmare
Why don't we
Fuel
talk
Goofy.
about what did you say? Garfield movie?
The director described these as like Nightmare Fuel Goofy, like Disney Goofy.
That's awesome. I like that actually. Did they have floppy ears? But I know they had
Did
long
they have ears?
nose. Yeah, they had long noses. They kind of looked like tiki guys in the face.
Yes.
In certain shots. But before we even get to the creatures, why don't we kind of set up the story, right? It starts out with Nic Cage in this dreary, gloomy, post-apocalyptic environment. He comes across in Jersey. Of course, it's Jersey. Did he ran into the Toxic Avenger probably, and two twin boys, two babies.
Yeah, he's like running through an alleyway, and there's there's gunshots and explosions and crazy shit happening off screen, but we're just focused on the back of Nic Cage running through.
He's like power walking, like
a hellscape.
You can't tell if there's like something. Like
I guess
honestly, I
he's
remember
not
being
running.
kind of questioned a little bit. Like, is there something serious going on, or is this just like normal neighborhood crime?
I thought it was just a relaxing stroll.
Yeah.
And then, oh hey, look! Fast forward a few years, the boys are grown. They live in this house together. What's going on? Is this some kind of religious commune type thing? Oh no, they have to fortify the place. We know that at night things are trying to get through the door. I thought they were zombies myself. Or I thought it was the mom. I thought they kicked her ass out and she was just really pissed off.
The rare case of he took the kids.
Right. Yeah. It wouldn't happen in Japan. Sorry, Steve.
No.
Yeah.
And they have that big ravine in the woods. So
yes,
that's going to play a part. Like, I wonder what that's about.
Yeah, when you're running through the woods and you have to jump over like a 3-foot hole in the ground. Typically that's called Chekhov's hole. And you know that it'll come back in the third act.
That's right. So the brothers' names, we have Thomas and Joseph, and their dad, played by Nicolas Cage, is Paul. And at the beginning, you're wondering if they're the only characters in the vicinity. We find out, no, there are neighbors. There's another family across the ravine, so to speak, at the farm. And one of the brothers likes to go there to just chill a little bit. Nick, I think you could sense it, as your teenage self. Like, I just know he's banging some chick over there.
There's got to be somebody.
Yeah. And there was.
You don't go over to a farm for fun. Unless you're, like, really into milking cows. And that's a completely other conversation.
I feel like he was trying to impress her, though, with his cow milking skills a little bit.
Definitely.
Right.
He was practicing.
Yeah, and you feel sorry for these teenage boys. I mean, you don't have a lot of options when the world's gone to shit.
When I was growing up, when I was a teenager, I didn't have friends either, but like, I wasn't trying to fix a dune buggy about it. I was just playing video games.
That's
like,
true.
get a hobby.
Yeah, I was the same way. I would argue probably most of us were the same way. Steve, Sean, can you contest? I mean, what was it like for you, Steve, in Marietta, Ohio? Being a teenager, delivering newspapers, wondering if, I don't know, Bill Clinton was going to blow up America.
I mean, I did a lot of things I wasn't supposed to do.
Yeah.
I got into a lot of trouble. I feel like I would have made similar bad decisions.
Yeah.
But I don't know that I ever would have gone as far as he did.
Right. Okay.
I was the kid who was learning how to play chess by myself.
Yeah.
Oh.
I was the Joseph in this situation.
Oh, wow. Joseph, he was the good one, right? He was the smart one.
Yeah, he was Dune Buggy Boy.
We had Dune Buggy Boy, and then we had Chase and Tail Boy.
Yeah.
Thomas. And Thomas he's having some problems getting home on time, it is a bit of an issue when you have bloodthirsty creatures that are crawling out of the core of the earth to tear you apart.
It's usually bad.
Yeah, so
I mean, it's
of
usually
course
a good
Nick Cage
motivation
has
to be
to-
home on time.
Yeah,
You'd think.
Right.
His ass is out after dark like constantly, dude. He's thinking with the wrong head.
Yeah.
So there's a really funny scene. It's a dinner conversation. If you can see it well, I know the camera's kind of shaking a bit, right? But if you can focus, it's actually a pretty cool scene where Nick Cage is asserting dominance as the father.
Are
And
we not men?
Are we not men? I love that line. It made me question myself. What about you?
I was thinking if what being a man means to Nick Cage is being able to stab a knife through a wooden table, then I'm not interested in even being a man, regardless of whether I
Wow.
am or not.
It had you questioning
like,
your masculinity.
There's more to being a man than just stabbing shit through a table.
Yeah.
But I like the symbol though.
Which they're about to find out in the next 20 minutes or so.
I related more to Joseph again because I was like, am I really gonna like put my whole ass into stabbing this table? I'm probably just gonna be like, whatever, dude. Are we not men? And then it just kind of falls. He doesn't stab the table. It just falls over.
That's right. Oh man. So
He's not a man.
symbolic. He's not a man.
He's a boy. He is but a boy. I also think that actor's like 25. Oh no, he's 21. So I would consider him still kind of a boy.
Sure. Me too. Yeah. We'll go with that.
His frontal cortex is not fully developed yet.
Well, they do have some problems between them. They fight a bit, and
They go kind of hard.
Then-
I didn't have a brother, but is that what having a brother is like? You like full on beat the shit out of each other?
probably
If you're lucky. Yeah.
Steve.
That was, I mean, that was one of the crowning joys of my adolescence, actually, was
Beating the shit out of your brother?
my older brother in particular. He's about 6 years older than me, and I still remember the day his girlfriend actually babysat for me and my younger sister, and my brother came in one day being, Billy Badass, trying to throw me around or whatever, and I flipped him over and gave him a wet willy right in front of his girlfriend.
Yo.
So I was super proud.
That's
Emasculated.
awesome.
Yeah.
Was that the one that had the actual pro wrestling career and just spoke at the Republican National Convention the other day?
Yeah.
That's what I thought. That's
Yeah.
awesome. Give him a high
Steve's
five.
brother, Hulk Hogan.
Yeah. Hulk Hogan Young.
Yeah.
Terry Young.
So yeah, the brothers have some issues, and then the movie really picks up when Thomas is returning late from Charlotte's house one night and falls into the pit of doom. And I remember we all audibly were like, "Oh shit."
Yeah,
What's gonna
I think
happen?
that is the exact quote from all
But
four of us.
I also wanted to mention this brief scene between Charlotte and Thomas where I thought this was cleverly done, cleverly written, where she asks him to give, what is it, like a 30-second rundown of what he thinks happened to the world.
Yeah.
And his version,
yeah.
his version was more of what I actually thought. And then she gave this kind of really out there fantasy version about how humans turn into wolves or something. And I was like, oh, that's ridiculous. That's got to be symbolic, because I thought this was, an artsy indie film type thing. Not that literally there were going to be werewolf things in the movie. But then, when Thomas is in the pit of doom and they actually start to emerge from the ground and you see them, I'm like, oh my God, she was right. Oh my God. Of course, we got Nic Cage, who finds out that Thomas is missing, decides to spend the night. It becomes a very unfortunate beginner's Minecraft debacle.
True.
Right.
You gotta shut the house up and make sure that
yeah.
you don't leave anything open.
He forgot to pack a bed, so they got to stay out all night.
Well, the rest of his party was still awake, so he couldn't sleep.
Mm-hmm.
I see. They refused to go to bed. Yeah.
Yeah.
Joseph is playing chess by himself.
Yeah, but I thought it was a pretty cool reveal of the creatures there. It was a frenetic scene. They do survive, but not without some scratches.
Don't they blow open the crevice? They have like a...
Yeah.
They have a moment where like the ground is opening up underneath them, and Nic Cage like punches a stick of dynamite with his manly fist.
That's when I was like, oh, okay, this is gonna get good. I'm ready.
That's also kind of the end of his screen time.
True.
It becomes more about the sons at that point.
Yeah.
He's not really in it.
Nic Cage looked at his contractual obligations and was like, you know what? I've been here a little bit too long. Can you go ahead and just take me out for a while?
BRB gotta punch a stick of dynamite.
Yeah. Which is fine.
They almost pull a Bryan Cranston, but
yeah.
Luckily not for the whole movie.
No, he's still there. He's in a bed. He gets up every now and then.
Yeah. But Joseph shows up right in his funny hat. He's like, dude, what did you do? What did you do to Dad? He's like, well, why weren't you here, bro? Why do you always gotta go next door just to have sex? Which hasn't happened
on the Rose Farm.
The Rose Farm. Yeah, and then I mean, I don't feel like we need to go through every scene for the rest of the film. It just becomes a survival story.
I did really like the scene where Joseph traps the creature. There's like a moment where he's watching the house by himself, and it's extremely creepy. One of the creatures opens up a little hatch in the door, and then Mr. Fantastic stretches its entire limb through like 12 feet into the room, and
that was really cool.
Its fingernail goes like the rest of the way.
Yeah. How does
it do
disgusting.
That? They never use that again in the whole film.
No.
They never stretch like that. They just turn into wheels.
Yeah.
Could it be foreshadowing the prequel to Longlegs, Long Arms?
Long nails. 9-inch
Long
nails.
Oh, starring Trent Reznor.
Mm-hmm. Yep, they're industrial
Score by
music
Trent
fan
Reznor.
creatures. Yeah. Oh, that's it. They're courting Trent Reznor for the soundtrack. The sequel.
The sequel to Arcadian. 9-inch long nails.
Nic Cage comes back as a like undead Wendigo thing. Yeah, spoilers. Nicolas Cage's character dies in this.
He self-sacrifices. Everybody is very sad about it.
He loves to do that stuff now.
He does. He does do that. I mean, it's on brand.
It is.
I think it makes sense for him as an actor. He knows he's coming to the end of his career, so he's kind of trying to get us used to his final goodbye.
Right.
You're not going to get a Willy's Wonderland every time.
Yeah.
No, it's just not going to happen. But yeah, Joseph and Thomas, they have some conflict between them, and Thomas is invited to live on the Rose Farm, which I know we were a bit confused about that, right? It's like, well,
why can't they just all be there?
Right. But he really wants to... I know Steve and I thought that this was by design, though. We thought it was kind of a... what's the word?
Yeah, like a post-apocalyptic
understood
reproduction.
Well, yeah, like it
was
was understood that he was going to breed with Charlotte to keep the human race going or something. Yeah. That's what I thought. But
he was given a breeding visa.
Yeah, right. That you absolutely have to cash. Mm-hmm. But when he tried, the dad got all pissy, like, this is not cool, man. I'm gonna.
What are you doing with my daughter? We may be in the apocalypse, but I haven't forgotten my values.
Loads shotgun.
Yeah. And then he ends up in the cellar, I think, which is the worst place to be when...
Probably has the grossest part in this portion of the film where Charlotte's mom is accosted by one of the creatures, and then it pins her down and opens itself up, and then some kind of disgusting fleshy appendage comes out of it and swallows her, and then is seen
it's very goopy.
Digesting her in the next scene in the bathtub. That was gross.
I loved it.
It was fantastic. I kind of wish that the camera wasn't filmed by someone with Parkinson's so that we could actually look at it.
Well, DEI hires.
Yes.
They need jobs.
That was something about the direction in this movie, though, is there's a lot of shaky cam.
They've never seen a tripod.
Guys, Nick actually
that was
filmed
really
all
the
of these
last
scenes
thing on the-
himself.
Oh, so it was an artistic choice.
Well,
from
it wasn't
Cage.
artistic. He was trying to hold it steady.
He just couldn't keep it together.
Let's see. To make a long story short, the things get in the house, and the house catches on fire, and Charlotte and Thomas escape, but only by like the skin of their teeth, because these things can combine into this giant rolling wheel of death, flaming
Critters
death.
2.
Did
They
you say
become a
critters?
critter ball. Yeah, they become a critter ball.
Yeah. It was just so ridiculous, but I loved it.
Did you know that this movie was originally pitched by the Hasbro Corporation after the success of the Barbies movie as a Barrel of Monkeys
Hell
film?
yeah.
Oh my god! If this was called Nic Cage's Barrel of Monkeys, God, it would be awesome.
I'd tell you this: it would make way more than $930,000 at the box office, because that's all it made. Didn't even crack a milli.
Oh, well,
Wow.
it also didn't receive the level of marketing that Longlegs did.
True.
Did we want to talk about the creatures at all?
I want
let's
to
talk
briefly
about 'em.
mention that the thing that they do before they attempt to kill somebody is maybe the funniest fucking thing I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, the
I saw a lot of
jackhammer.
people. Yeah, I guess it's inspired by some kind of shoebill bird that they snap their jaws really fast like that.
Oh,
But seeing it in this movie and the sound that they make, where it
Yeah.
genuinely sounds like a jackhammer,
right.
I
Or it
could
sounds
not
like
help
those,
but belly laugh every time it happened. It was
Yeah,
so funny
yeah.
to me.
Yeah, it's like those wind-up dentures.
Yeah, they're chattering teeth toys. Every single
it's-
time they're about ready to kill somebody, they have to
Yeah.
like wind up, and then
Right.
I feel like they don't bite anybody in the whole movie.
Yeah, it was weird.
Yeah, they never
They like
used
scratch
that.
people.
Yeah, I wonder if I was thinking maybe that's like how they communicate or something.
Maybe.
I mean, it
I
was
don't
an
know, but it
evolutionary
had me
choice
thinking.
because, I mean, if you think about it, that's how they've been able to overpower the human race. If they were just scary, we'd have no problem dealing with it.
Right,
But, like,
right.
Every time they come at you and they get close and they start, bah, 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 you just start laughing and they just eat you. So,
I mean, oh, I see. People,
Yeah.
you're not making a serious comment.
no, I'm saying, like,
People think it's cute and funny and then get murdered.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. That's how they're overpowering the human
That's
race.
100% what it is.
Yeah.
Oh, well, what a way to go. All right. Arcadian, everybody. Well, Nic
It's
Cage
fine.
isn't dead.
It's
comes
completely
back.
fine.
It's fine. I do think it helps a lot that they don't just wipe out Nic Cage's character.
Yeah.
He does come back for a fun. He goes out in a blaze of glory,
Yeah, he does.
which is awesome.
Behind a door, but yes.
Sure.
That's another thing I wanted to mention. We were like, oh, how the hell are they going to get out of this house if they're like rigging it to explode and these things can roll after them in a critter ball? And
Yeah.
then they pulled an Indiana Jones and got into a chest freezer and survived an explosion from inside the fridge.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. I also thought of the Indiana Jones during
It's-
that part.
It's a fun movie. It's just there's a lot of derivative.
I wonder, wouldn't it be
like,
ironic
weird
if
stuff in it.
you know how, I don't know if you know this, but Paranormal Activity has this memorable ending, and it's because Steven Spielberg offered his advice. It was Steven Spielberg's ending, essentially. He told the director or whatever, like, you need to end it this way in order for it to be
Yeah.
great. And
Throw
it
him
would be
into the
ironic.
camera.
It would be ironic if this was another Steven Spielberg ending. He's like, you know what? You need to just have him go in the fridge when yeah.
But
Be
this
awesome.
time, shoot it from inside the fridge. Don't make the same mistake I did and just
That's
shoot the
right.
fridge. Because I don't remember Crystal Skull at all. I don't think we were in the fridge with Indy when he was flying through the air.
I will be honest with you, I didn't even see it. But
I watched it back in the day, and I've erased it from my memory.
Okay. So we're pretty much on the same page then.
Yeah.
Well, Sean, since we haven't heard a lot from you on Arcadian, what are your final thoughts on it? What worked for you? We already know your thoughts on the creatures, but overall, what do you think?
I did find it enjoyable, although I did think that the hydraulic press jaw of the monsters made it a bit hard to take seriously.
Yes. Yes. I can see that.
But
yes.
Yeah, no, it's a brief 90 minutes. So I definitely think it's, worth a watch for any Cage fans.
Cool.
I did want to mention though, because we never mentioned why it is called Arcadian.
Do you know?
Oh yeah, didn't we look that up?
So the word Arcadian, it means relating to or constituting a rural ideal paradise.
Oh.
So I assume that is referring to the life that they built on that farm away from everything else going on.
I think it actually talks about a lot of different lives, because it is to some degree the life they built on that farm, but it's also the kids questioning whether or not that is an ideal life for them.
Yeah, it is a bit of a coming of age tale.
Right.
Well.
Yeah. At the end of the movie, they're kind of left wondering how to proceed.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we should mention the ending, right? It's the survivors are the two boys and the girl.
Yeah, they blow the house up. The girl joins the brothers. They get in their dune buggy and they drive off into the distance.
Yeah, into the sunset. Nice happy family. Don't you feel like two guys, one girl? There's going to be some more conflict.
There's a sequel in there somewhere, I'm sure. Arcadian 2
with Nic Cage coming back as the undead Wendigo.
Arcadian 2, they have a threesome.
Let's get on it. It's got to happen. Benjamin Brewer, make it happen. I'm curious what else he's done.
Ben, you can email me at... No.
Oh. He was involved with Everything Everywhere All at Once.
That's fascinating.
Yes.
That's a great film.
I'm not sure. He worked on the visual effects. Lead visual effects artist for that film.
So he's got a visual effects background. That kind of explains why these creatures are so distinct and interesting to look at.
Yeah, and honestly, I think that's what attracted me the most to the movie, was that these creatures were so different from what we're used to seeing.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that the Quiet Place aliens are kind of boring looking.
I agree.
They're just sort of like, they have no face and they have razors on their... They kind of remind me of the necromorphs from Dead Space. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But, like, they're not really all that interesting to look at. Even when we get a good look at them at the end of that movie, it's kind of like, okay, that's all it is. Whatever. Who cares? Yeah. But these, like, weird, goofy tiki monsters are pretty cool.
Yeah. Do you think this was kind of an audition, so to speak, for Nic Cage being in the next Quiet Place film? Because you know it's going to happen, right? We're going to get
for sure.
More. So, and he's just
was his training wheels.
He's going to annihilate the shit out of those things.
Oh, yeah. Nic Cage plus Emily Blunt equals A Quiet Place Part 3.
They're going to have Gatling guns.
Yes.
It's going to be awesome. With silencers.
And he's just playing the character from Bad Lieutenant.
Let's go.
I want it.
Arcadian,
John
everyone.
Krasinski. My email is no.
Go ahead. Yeah, we'll put it in the comments.
Yeah. John, I'm sure John will hear this. John Krasinski, who I'm on a first name basis with.
Mm-hmm. Well, I have a feeling you guys are going to think that I'm being awfully generous, but I'm going to go ahead and give it a score out of 5, and I'm going to give it a solid 3.
I gave it a 3.5. Actually, I'm surprised I'm higher than that. Yeah.
Okay.
Just because we had such a fun time watching it, and
That's true.
the creatures brought me such genuine joy, laughing my ass off every single time they did the chattering teeth thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it impressed me because my expectation was this is going to be like bad, and it wasn't bad.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. I am somewhere between a 3 and a 3.5, if not a 3.5. Yeah. You're right.
I'm probably about
Sean?
the same.
I didn't ask you, Steve.
I'd probably give it like a 5.
Sean, then
5
Sean
out of 5?
comes out the gate with the perfect 5.
Oh wait, out of 5 or out of 10?
Out of 5.
You did this last time, Sean. You did this last time, and I took you serious.
It's a masterpiece.
Remember, Steve?
I'd give it a 3.
You give it a okay. All right. I'm sorry, Sean. I'm just being funny. Not
It was
trying to piss
good.
you off.
I give
I'm
it
not trying to piss you off
a
yet.
7. A 7, which is
3.5.
a perfect score.
The perfect score.
Doesn't get any better
Great.
than that.
And Steve, did you also basically say the
I
same
think
number?
a 3.5 is fair. Yeah.
Okay.
It was a good movie.
Wow.
I enjoyed it. There were no points where I just wanted it to be over.
Great.
I never got sleepy. That's a plus.
Yeah.
I do think the sense I get is they had some trouble in the marketing of this movie and trying to figure out how to market this movie. Even when you look at the cover art, the poster for it, it doesn't really capture the essence of what this film is. It looks... So you have Nic Cage and the two boys and these giant red claw marks going through them. And it I don't know. It looks more of like a thriller, like a hunter thriller type.
I
I'm
think
not
trying
quite sure
to market
why.
anything with Nicolas Cage in it is kind of like its own field of marketing.
Yeah.
Because there are so many movies that like the movie is one genre and Nick in it is a different genre.
Right. But I literally feel like if it just said Arcadian, A Quiet Place at Home with Nicolas Cage, people are going to be like, oh, hell yeah.
Yeah.
I do want to see that.
Well, yeah, when I told my mom about it, she was like, oh, I really like A Quiet Place, and it's got Nic Cage in it. I'm absolutely fucking watching that.
Hell yeah.
So I feel like if they had just... Because the trailer doesn't really let you in on what it is necessarily. Like,
Yeah.
it seems kind of like a survival thing. It might be other
Right.
people. It could be a monster. You can't really show the creature in the trailer.
Well,
So
that's what I was
a
going to
tough
say.
place to be.
I do appreciate that. Because
Yeah.
how disappointing is it if it was marketed as a monster movie and the expectations are already there for the
Right.
creature itself, and you're just waiting and waiting.
The real reason why they made this film was because on the set of The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, he found out that Pedro Pascal was cast as Joel from The Last of Us, and he's like, I gotta get in on that.
Dude.
He's like, that shit's winning an Emmy. I gotta get my own.
You may not be wrong. I can see that. I gotta do my own post-apocalyptic movie. I just have to. What did you guys think about Cage's performance specifically? Let's talk about that, then we'll move on.
He was refreshingly subdued. I thought it was really nice to see him kind of play something straight. He hasn't done that in a long time.
Yeah, agreed.
And it wasn't the sort of subdued that he is in Willy's Wonderland where he doesn't speak and it's sort of a heightened, silent performance. He's just very even-keeled in this movie, and he's like a good father. You don't really get the sense that he's like an asshole to these boys. He's just trying to raise them in this terrible situation, and I think it benefits him really well to have something where he's a little more low than the high that he is all the rest of the time.
How many times do you think Benjamin Brewer, the director, said to Nick, hey, let's do it again, this time less Cage outs?
I hope that it's at least like a 50% of the time.
Yeah.
Because
Agreed.
those are bloopers I want to see.
Yeah. Steve, what did you think?
Honestly, I think it was pretty good. I think the only thing that could have made it better is if the neighbors had given him back his fucking pig.
That's why
Yeah.
they didn't want to let him stay, because he'd be like, "Hey, that's my fucking pig. What are you doing?"
Didn't we joke about this being a pig prequel?
Yeah.
But that he died didn't really add up. So,
And timelines
Shucks.
don't quite make sense.
so Sean, what did you think about his performance? In the
I thought it was decent.
a decent man.
I just don't think that, a lot about it really stood out to me.
Yeah, that's fair. His
Kind
performance,
of a middle of the road
Yeah.
performance for him.
Yeah, I feel that.
There was no crazy talking to the monsters before he slaughters them.
Oh, God.
mocking them.
Could you imagine?
That might.
They start snapping at him, and he just goes, "I could do that too." Bah, 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 bah.
He just takes a bite out of one of them.
Oh
my God.
Deleted
I would
scenes.
pay. I'd buy the Blu-ray for that.
Yeah, for sure. I did notice that it seems to only be getting a Blu-ray release. A Blu-ray
Oh, really?
release. I am not seeing a 4K.
Huh. Well, Shudder typically doesn't do 4Ks for their original releases, and it's honestly, it's hard to find the Blu-rays even, because they do a DVD, and like those are all
Okay.
over Walmart.
I
If
see.
you ever go into a Walmart and look at the DVD section,
Uh-huh.
there's usually going to be a Shudder DVD section,
Gotcha. I see. So this
which is cool, but I'm a Blu-ray kind of
So
person.
Shudder produced this movie.
They distributed the movie.
Okay. So, but it's a Shudder exclusive
Correct.
in terms of distribution.
Yes.
They've been doing that with a lot of his.
Yeah, because Mandy
lot of
was a
his
Shudder
movies.
original as well.
Okay.
So was Color Out of Space.
That's true, yeah.
Color Out of Space, baby.
What a film.
Well, speaking of films, how about we move on to Longlegs,
Star of the show.
star of the show. Yeah, and let's, guys, let's try to be cordial. This is a cage fight environment. I know that Sean and Nick, you two absolutely you went gaga over this film. Steve, you loved it too. It's your favorite film of all time.
Yeah. It's probably the best film of all time.
Yeah. Steve didn't see it.
Many people are saying this.
I have to tell them. Steve didn't see it.
Yeah. For clarity's sake.
Yeah. But that's fine. I appreciate you being here. Steve, can I have you on the record? You don't mind that we spoil Longlegs?
Oh, I very much do, but you're gonna do it anyways. Just fucking do whatever you want anyways.
Okay. And are you blaming me specifically or everyone else too?
You specifically.
Me.
Okay.
All right. Okay. Good.
I'm off the
Longlegs.
hook. I
What
feel good
can
about
we
that.
say about Longlegs? How can we start here? I know that
Non-spoilery?
well, non-spoilery. We should talk about kind of when we first caught wind of this film. I know that we brought it up in the podcast before. We knew that Nic Cage had been slated to play a serial killer. Didn't know much else, I want to say, until 2 weeks before release, when we started to get more of the critical reviews. We started to get some of the hype. News was breaking that people were freaking out over the reveal of Nic Cage's look in Longlegs, which was exciting. They did some kind of viral marketing push where they put, I don't know if you saw this, they put a heart monitor on the lead actress. She hadn't actually
Yes.
seen Nic Cage yet, and so they were tracking her heartbeat for when she did, and it was supposed to indicate that she was
fell in
scared.
love?
I thought she was just like really, like horned up and excited because she was meeting Nicolas Cage.
Who wouldn't be?
So
Right.
that tracked either way you look at it. But yeah, with all the reviews and just the simple fact, we got Nic Cage. We discover he's in some kind of special makeup. He's a serial killer. Let's go.
Did you ever call that phone number I sent you?
No, I didn't.
Oh, man.
Was that part of it?
Yeah, that was part of it.
That So there was a whole, I don't know how much of this you've seen or interacted with, but there was a whole ARG surrounding this movie before it came out. I didn't know this until Friday, because I had avoided pretty much everything
Me too.
for this. I knew two things: that it's an Oz Perkins film, and that Nic Cage is going to be in it. That's all I knew, and I was
Yeah.
like, cool, I'm sold. You don't have to tell me anything else.
Yeah.
but I found out that they had a whole website dedicated to tracking the birthday murders as they are in this film. And that it was like a whole thing. You could read all about all the different birthday murders, and they had dates and names that you could piece together parts of the mystery with.
That's cool. That's fun.
Neon released a bunch of trailers that were really cryptic. They didn't say that they were for Longlegs. They were just teasers, like, about the birthday murders, and parts of it were footage from the film, parts of it were outside other things.
Okay.
So they went kind of hard on viral marketing for this.
Yeah.
I love that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and that's awesome. And as we can see, it totally got people to come out for it.
Oh, it worked.
Yeah.
Now I kind of regret not looking more up about the movie beforehand.
Me too.
Yeah.
That would have been fun to be a part of.
Yeah. A little bit. I looked at some of it as well.
As time has gone on, I've tried to stay out of the marketing cycle for a lot of movies I was excited for, because
Same here.
Yeah, especially with a lot of the more like
entire plot is in the trailer.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at Oz Perkins's film history here.
Yes.
And I know, Nick, you're familiar. I did read your Letterboxd review as well. Can you tell me?
Okay.
Can you tell me what films you think stand out in his career?
Okay, so there's only one of his directed films that I haven't seen yet. 2020's Gretel and Hansel. I just watched I Am the Pretty Thing That Lives in the House, and before that I had seen The Blackcoat's Daughter, which was his directorial debut.
Okay.
I think that film is a really good encapsulation of what you're going to get with an Oz Perkins film. His style has evolved and been refined since that debut, but everything that I've seen from him sort of has that same air about it, where it's very concerned with atmosphere and mood and creating tension through suggestive framing.
Okay.
So a lot of the stuff that we see in Longlegs is usually Micah Monroe dead center in the frame with a shit ton of negative space around her on all three sides. And we are constantly wondering if something is going to pop up in the back or enter the frame in the background and scare her or us or both. A lot of the stuff in The Blackcoat's Daughter kind of lays the groundwork for where he eventually goes with Longlegs. And I think if you're going to watch any film that he has made, that's the one you should watch.
Yeah, that's the one that's been recommended to me.
Say, I would say to skip I Am the Pretty Thing That Lives in the House. I didn't really like it that much. It was more experimental. I appreciated that it was more personal for him. It was kind of about his relationship with his father.
Okay.
The late Anthony Perkins, famously starred as Norman Bates in Psycho.
Right.
But I don't really... I didn't get as much out of that film as I did out of Blackcoat's Daughter, and definitely not as much as I got out of Longlegs.
Okay. Awesome.
Definitely interested to check out his other movies.
I really want to watch Gretel and Hansel. I've heard that it's fantastic, and it's the only one of his I haven't seen yet.
Let's see, I don't know much about it, honestly.
I was just looking up where The Blackcoat's Daughter might be streaming. I guess it's on Canopy?
Oh, okay. You can get that with a library card.
What is it, Hoopla?
Yeah. Canopy?
Sorry, all I heard was Hoopla. That's the only one that matters.
True.
You don't work there anymore, Steve.
That's true.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the story of Longlegs. We have FBI agent Lee Harker. She is pursuing a serial killer, as we all know, played by Nicolas Cage, known as Longlegs. And she is uncovering a series of occult clues that must be solved in order to end this, quote, terrifying killing spree, as it is described on imdb.com. Yeah, so basically we have Micah Monroe. She plays Agent Lee Harker. She's trying to solve these murders, these very, these super questionable, confounding murders that seem to be happening with no killer entering the homes of these families, but we're talking entire families wiped out. Usually there's a child involved. If not,
I think they frame it at first as murder-suicides, and they're trying to figure out how it gets to that point.
Right. Correct. Are they murder-suicides? We have some red herrings, so to speak. We start to think, oh, is she psychic? What's going on? She can kind of sense things. The FBI is trying to maybe develop this ability in her. Then she gets the clues because Longlegs leaves this kind of cryptic code behind at the killings, and she's actively trying to crack that. And it just keeps getting more and more mysterious. And I remember thinking, how are they going to solve this? Because, man, is that a tall order when we finally learn that the serial killer is not the agent of destruction, so to speak. But yeah, it's kind of hard to talk about the rest of the story without spoilers. Is there anything else you guys want to mention about the film for people that...
Nicolas Cage is in this movie for about as long as Anthony Hopkins is in Silence of the Lambs.
Really?
If I don't have the numbers in front of me, but that's what it felt like to me, and I'm a big Silence of the Lambs person.
Me too.
So kind of when I got the vibe that this was going to be riffing on that,
yeah,
I was like, oh, he's probably not in it that much then, because I think Anthony Hopkins is in that film for like 14 minutes of the runtime.
Okay.
I'd probably put this on par. Maybe Cage gets a little bit more because we see him in it
right
a little bit earlier on than we see Lecter.
Honestly, the vibes from it,
sure,
got a little more like Hereditary than Silence of the Lambs.
For sure, with like the oppressive atmosphere of dread.
Yeah,
it feels very Ari
but
Aster.
It very much has a very unique directorial style, which I appreciate.
Yes.
Well,
yeah, a lot of Oz Perkins movies look like this.
I will say towards definitely past the second half, I'd say in the third act, I kind of felt like I was watching a Shyamalan film.
Oh, I can kind of see that.
Yeah. Which is not necessarily a bad thing.
No, it just has his sort of the way that he frames action and the way that he the way that he ratchets tension in his films is pretty similar to a conflict that happens in the third act.
Okay, you said Shyamalan, and I was expecting that the director inserted himself into the movie to solve the plot.
Oh man, could you imagine?
That'd be great. That'd be awesome.
Hi, Micah Monroe. I'm Osgood Perkins. I'm going to tell you how to solve the Longlegs murders.
All right, let's get into spoilers then.
Spoiler time.
Because I know you guys. I think you guys both really appreciated the film more than I did, at least from an initial viewing.
I'm curious to know how you felt about it.
Yeah,
I've kind of been thinking about that like all week.
I will say, I have watched Nic Cage movies and had not the highest regard for them until a second viewing. One of those is Mandy. I just kind of wasn't getting it, I guess. But when I watched it again, I was like, all right, now that I'm by myself and I know what all of the disparate parts are, I get it. It's good, all right? I'm a Mandy fan. We'll put that out there before late night cage fight fans kill me again.
I think that this movie is going to benefit from subsequent viewings more than almost any other movie that has come out this year.
So I'll tell you my experience, and then you guys can kind of respond to it, if that's cool.
Sure.
I was part of the hype machine. I was super stoked to see it. It was a late night for me. It was after band practice. So it was probably around, I think the showtime was 9:45. Roll in, right, get my food, sit down. It's the nice theater with the loungers. It starts up. Now, I really love everything about the beginning of this movie. I love how it's framed. I love how it's making you feel like you're watching an old classic horror movie, like from the 70s.
Yeah.
It starts out with a T-Rex quote, which is so badass. So I'm thinking, all right, this is going to be rock and roll. And then you get the first sequence, and hell yeah, it is rock and roll. In fact, I was so excited, I jumped out of my chair. I ran down into the doorway to the theater, and I sent a message to the group like, oh my God, I cannot believe what I just saw. But then the rest of the movie...
really, really effective jump scare in that beginning scene.
Yes. Yeah. So you see Longlegs in the first scene, and it's
very briefly.
Briefly, but it is so creepy and unsettling and well done. And just the fact that it's actually, when I heard cuckoo, I knew it was him, because I recognize his voice anywhere. You know, he speaks to me in my dreams. I was like, oh my God, it's Nic Cage. 1 second, I got to check how much space I have on my hard drive. I got about 15 minutes left on my recording, so yeah, sorry, I may have to dump the file, or we'll just speed it up.
Yeah, we can go fast.
But then after that, I felt like, you know, I totally agree about the vibe and the atmosphere, but I was really clued in on what I felt was going to happen just by what I was seeing. So you have the scene where they're going to the house where there's a murder, but they don't know where the house is. And she has this kind of intuition, this psychic experience where she knows that that's the house. And her partner makes this comment like, well, we can't call it in based on a hunch. So we'll go check first. And I'm like, okay, so he's going to die because we don't want them to know she's got this psychic ability. And then he does. And I'm like, oh, okay, saw that coming. And then they're doing like psychic ability testing on her, which reminded me of Blade Runner 2049.
I also got that vibe.
Yeah. I was like, okay, that's interesting. And I like how they dated this. I like how it was the 90s with the obnoxious Bill Clinton portrait in the director's office.
More than Cage
a lot of Bill
himself,
Clinton screen time in this, John. I didn't expect that.
Yeah. But
they're probably on par.
There were things that just really I couldn't discount. It's like, okay, so she's this FBI agent, but she lives in this home in the woods with nice big windows, so anyone can see you. Anyone can come and watch you in your living room. I found that bizarre. She has a very awkward conversation with her mom on the phone, and I'm like, well, that's weird. And also, we didn't see what happened to the little girl at the beginning, because there's this little girl who's approached by Longlegs, but it's just a jump scare type thing. So there's no direct violence against the child, which is one criticism I have about this movie.
No violence towards children
overall
is a criticism.
There is no direct violence. He's an agent of, it's like a Charles Manson type thing, or so we're supposed to believe. So he does not directly kill people. So I'm thinking, well, the little girl's probably not dead, and she just had a really strange conversation with her mom. This is all, and she acts so weird. She's got this expression. It's like she's not sure if she pooped her pants yet. Like looking around, I'm like, what is going on? Yeah, so I'm already like kind of thinking, the wheels are turning, and I'm like, all right, I believe, and then, we already have the Silence of the Lambs comparison, so I'm thinking there's got to be some connection between Harker and Longlegs that is going to be revealed. It's more than what we think. And we get to one of the first murders where we find the family, and it's just the way she reacted I thought was very bizarre. As a trained FBI agent, she was just so disgusted by the scene, and it kind of took me out of it, because I'm like, well, they're trained to deal with that, and they're supposed to, they're gonna, like, we're trying to stop this from happening. just get over it. I didn't really feel.
Didn't they also say
for
she
her.
was
I
pretty
kind of
new,
was like,
though, too?
You suck.
This was the situation with her partner in the very beginning where she guesses, or doesn't guess, but she like intuits the right house. That was her first field experience.
Right.
So she's really green, and okay. Have you seen the NBC Hannibal show at all?
I have not.
Okay. She kind of puts me in mind of that version of Will Graham. Even down to like living in the woods in like a nicer house than you would expect. And he's kind of like a perfect profiler. He can put together the scene of the crime in his head, like to a T. So I was thinking about that when I was seeing her react to this first crime scene that she goes into, and it kind of it reminded me more Hannibal connections. It reminded me of the way that both Will and Clarice in Silence of the Lambs react to the first time that they see like a murder victim. Okay. Where she's also kind of like taken aback and shaken up by it.
Gotcha. Sure. And that's a small thing, really.
Yeah.
But we uncover this thread where the killer is killing on specific dates to fit a pattern. And this pattern is a satanic symbol, right?
Yes.
Okay. And she is able to logically figure out who and where the next murders are going to take place. Am I tracking?
It's also a bit of her psychic ability coming into play, but yeah, mostly she just figures it out based on the record of all of the killings in the past. She kind of gets all the dates together, and we have a very 90s sequence where she's like in a library looking at a microfilm projector.
Yes, that's right.
I appreciated that.
Yeah, me too. No, the cinematography is excellent. Atmosphere is excellent. You mentioned framing. And this might be like a modern horror thing. You know that the scene where it shows one of the other family murders with the dad with the axe?
Yeah.
The mom is like in the doorway.
Mm-hmm.
I just felt like this was so... I felt like it was almost a Wes Anderson type thing, where we've set this up in a way to be beautiful, but it doesn't... It's not unsettling to me because it's set up as a shot to be artistic.
Yeah, and I've seen other people say, like, this is such a beautiful movie that I was not able to feel scared during it because everything looks so perfect.
Yeah,
which
and
I think is interesting.
I'm more in that camp.
Yeah.
Again, I'll rewatch it. But it felt very like stage theatrical at times. And that's not necessarily like an objectively bad thing. The Witch is another film that I think does that extremely well.
Yeah. Another like very visually focused director there in Robert Eggers.
Oh, for sure. And I did appreciate the little like weird textures that they added in the movie, like the vapor effects and you know what I mean? Like that stuff.
Grindhouse.
That stuff is
inspired.
Memorable.
Yeah,
right.
For sure.
But then, as the plot unfolded, I just became disappointed because for me, I felt like it was just themes from other horror movies that were kind of cherry picked. We'll put like we're in spoiler territory now. We're gonna have scary dolls.
I think my biggest disappointment for the movie was just kind of how it concluded and the answer to the mystery kind of being, oh, it's Satan.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
It kind of fits in with the putting it in the 90s where we're coming off of the Satanic Panic era.
Okay.
But yeah, I can see where
that
that would be like, oh, it's not like Longlegs isn't even really like the guy that's doing the thing.
The one scene I want to talk about that I just don't understand the point of it was when Longlegs goes to the convenience store or the gas station.
Mm.
And the young girl like makes fun of him.
Yeah.
I didn't understand what they were trying to express with that character.
Wasn't she supposed to be
time.
one of...
I felt like he was weak.
I'm not sure if you noticed, but yeah, she's like who he models one of the dolls off of.
Okay. That's why I'm asking, because I knew that there was something I missed with that.
Yeah, she, I think it's the second one that we see.
Yeah.
Not Lee's, but the second one that we see is modeled directly off of that girl, and she even mentions like he's back again. Like,
yes,
he goes there a lot to try and sneak peeks at her and make sure that he's making, you know, the likeness correct, because he's a very particular craftsman.
All right. And could you talk a little bit about how Harker figures out the identity of the killer? Because I think I was
so the way that she figures everything out, other than like doing the legwork of collecting all the dates for the murders, is everything is kind of a feeling for her. That psychic intuition that she's shown to have in the beginning keeps coming back in more and more interesting ways, and I think part of what it is that she's not necessarily psychic, because she mentions to what's the Agent Carter. She mentions to him that like she only got 50% of the answers right in the psychic test.
Yes.
But I think what's more important to uncovering like her role in this is when they're having her do word association, every word that she says is part of the mystery. It's all part of solving the mystery. So like she says like father, door, axe, and something like that, and it like that tells you about the camera murders. Everything that and I think it's all because, again, we're in spoilers, she is the little girl from the beginning of the movie. Her early experience with Longlegs and having the doll made for her, it kind of, to me, it feels like the dolls are taking a bit of the souls of the girls that they are intended for and clouding them in the sort of like the energy of the devil, which is why the fathers say like, oh, this isn't my daughter, you know, that I don't know what that is, but it's not my kid, and then they go crazy and kill their families.
See, I like that. I really appreciate that explanation, because my mind was not there.
Well, it's hard to connect because the movie is really the movie obfuscates that particular part of it. Like what the doll does to them is not as obvious as like we get a full exposition dump about what Harker's mother does in this movie, like her role in this as the actual person who goes and puts the doll in the house and makes sure that the murders take place.
Yes, the traveling sales nun.
Yes. That part of it is really well explained, but what the dolls are actually doing is not. It's kind of left up to your interpretation. But what I feel like near the end when we see her doll is shot in the head and like that smoke comes out of it, and then we see like the shot reverses to Harker and it's coming out of her head too. I feel like for the rest of the movie after that, she's taking a much more active role because she doesn't have that sort of weight, you know, pulling her down and suppressing her anymore. She's more,
it's obvious,
more alert.
It's obvious there's a change there.
Yeah.
But it's not obvious what that change is.
Right. And I think that all comes down to whatever this demon is, whether it's the devil or just another demon, because I don't think that's really made clear either.
Right.
Is it was controlling her, and the reason that she's so distant in the whole movie and like barely speaks to anybody is because she was supposed to be dead. In the, she was supposed to be one of the birthday girls. That's why he calls her the almost birthday girl.
Right. Hey everyone, Cagefighter Reese here. I know you've been enjoying this episode of Late Night Cage Fight, but I have something to tell you. You're probably wondering why this episode is titled Director's Cut. No, it's not a director's cut of Longlegs, unfortunately. It is a director's cut of the episode because at this point in the recording, my audio became corrupted. I was able to salvage Nick's, Sean's, and Steve's audio, but mine, unfortunately, was lost. And therefore, I have to apologize to you listeners, as well as Nick, Sean, and Steve. The answers that they give for the remainder of this episode are not to my questions. I re-recorded what I said, and I don't exactly remember everything I said. And so, yes, I'm very sorry. Please forgive me, and hopefully you'll find the rest of this episode entertaining and educational. Thank you.
I think one of the things I was curious about how you guys felt about it is, like, do we think that he's even human? Is he like a real guy, or is he like a...
That's one of the things that kind of reminded me of Hereditary, was just like, almost Nick being a practitioner of the satanic arts. And in my showing, I don't know if you guys had this, but I actually had a few people that got up and left after, the scene where he started saying "Hail Satan." I guess that really like freaks some people out.
I buy that. People leave theaters all the time.
I heard Nic Cage ate Satan's butthole.
Yeah. Based Nic Cage, Hail Satan.
So I was watching and I was thinking, this is not Harry Potter, but there's magic in it, but it's not Harry Potter. It's a different kind of magic, and the magic is there. What do you think about the magic?
Sure, it's very magical. Yeah, the magical reasoning of it all is kind of however you want to take it.
So what can you say a little bit about the FBI agent's mom, that hottie?
That's a good point.
Yeah, I just want to know what's going on there. It seems like she lost it a bit. She's still a baddie. I would tap it. But what's the deal? What's the dealy o?
Yeah, I think at this point she's just mentally broken, and like it doesn't even, because obviously her child is not a child anymore. She's a grown woman, and it's like at this point you just can't stop, because what if, me stopping means, well, it didn't matter, it was all for nothing, and then she can't live with the reality of that. I killed all these people and it didn't even matter.
So tell me about the ending. Was it a happy ending? I can't remember at this point because it was so long ago.
Yeah, in a way, it's really bleak. I mean, the not the final shot, but the last time that we see Harker, she's got Carter's daughter, and she's just kind of like, we have to go, and she can't bring herself to even move. She's so fucked up from what she's just witnessed and had to do in her own right.
Yeah.
That this trauma will never heal.
This trauma will never heal. Do you think there will be a Megan Longlegs crossover?
I hope so. That would be crazy. And there is a Megan sequel coming out. Look for it. Megan X Longlegs.
more like Megan X Long Schlong. More like Megan X Schlong Legs.
Right.
Yeah. Man, what nature? nature-based magic, you know?
Yeah.
What can you tell me?
So there's a nature connection here that I wasn't aware of until I looked further into this. What Longlegs is doing here is a phenomenon called cuckooing, where the cuckoo bird lays its eggs in other birds' nests and forces them to raise the baby cuckoo as its own, and eventually then the cuckoo kills the other birds.
Could you imagine if Steve said something right now?
That would explain the cuckoo at the beginning, right?
He did.
Yes, that's why Longlegs says
Fucking
cuckoo.
idiot.
It's an allusion to that theme, because I didn't know that either until I looked further into the film.
Hey, do you think people, if they can't figure it out during the movie, they're just gonna think that it's not good writing?
Yeah, people are just gonna think if they can't figure it out on their own during the movie, then they're just gonna think it's not good writing.
That's what I said.
It's just a weird thing that he does.
But I guess you could also argue it goes back to the viral marketing aspect of it too, that as people figure it out and as it gets spread around, that it kind of gets like a second revival.
Steve, we know in high school what you spread around. Half the school got it. Anyway, what do you guys think of the driving scene that just sticks out in my mind? It really just pops. I want to make it pop. You want to make it pop with me?
I was going to say, the driving scene had me cracking up, and I think that was intentionally funny, because there are some jokes in this movie. Like some actual setup punchline jokes, not just like awkward moments. So I kind of thought that was just Oz Perkins goes, you want to just go full Cage? Here's a part where you can just go full Cage.
Cuckoo.
But I think this sort of the cuckooing theming, that is one of the things that I find to be really divisive about Oz Perkins as a filmmaker. He puts themes like that in his movies, I should say. He's only got 4, but they're hidden and buried and esoteric, and you have to really hunt for them. They don't really make themselves apparent, and I appreciate that. It gives the movie like more of a life outside of the movie that you can theorize about and talk about. But I also agree with you, and if that was actually like explained in the movie, everybody'd be like, oh fuck, this is brilliant.
Listen, you have a movie, you have all the elements of a movie, you put them together,
yes,
put them in a pot, mix them up, right? And then you lay it down on the page.
No.
Well, okay, you get some actors together, you shoot it. You make it happen.
And we meet them pretty early on.
We meet the actors right when the movie starts. They're there, they're making it happen, and then you go and you see it, right? And that's what's leading me to question what exactly is happening with the story regarding the children and Harker as a child. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I had the same feeling. I wasn't sure if it was going to be handled in the way that it is handled eventually, but I kind of, as soon as you see a little girl, you know that the little girl kind of mirrors Harker in a way. She's also like, they talk about her being like precocious or whatever, so you're kind of like, okay, this is where this is probably going to go. But it being Harker's mom, the accomplice being Harker's mom, threw me off, and I was like, oh well, how is that going to work out? Because I don't think she knows these people, because Harker keeps her work life very away, hidden from her mother.
Got it. All right. Ending of the movie, the last few scenes, I was pulling a Paul Rubens in the back, kind of thinking about other things, and the whole hole in the popcorn kind of thing. And
yeah,
I don't know what was going on.
Yeah, she takes his assistant, or the assistant director maybe. She takes her back to her mother's house Oh my god. Yeah, that was crazy. Like, one of the biggest double taps in cinema history.
Bam, bam, thank you,
Did not
ma'am.
need to go that hard.
No.
That's when she figures it out, and that's when we get the scene where her mother shoots the doll that represents Harker, and
Wham,
she
bam.
kind of passes out after
you, ma'am.
the smoke leaves her head.
Yeah.
And then we find that she figured it out. She put it all together, and she takes Longlegs' car to Carter's house and shows
Right.
up, and the birthday party is happening. So
Made it.
her
Right.
mother is there in the nun garb. Yeah.
Hot.
And she has Ruby has a doll next to her that looks like her.
It's an
and her
American
parents
doll?
are sitting on the couch
Just ignore me, I guess.
looking fucked up.
Yeah.
And this was one of the things that shook me the most about the as far as the horror in this movie goes. The moment where Carter's wife says to him, like, let's go in the kitchen and get the cake, and he says, okay, we'll go into the kitchen. She goes, we'll be right back, and he says, you won't be back, I'm gonna leave you in the kitchen.
Right.
I was fucking chilled to the bone by that.
Yeah,
Because
that was disturbing.
that means that they know what's happening in some way, that they understand, like,
Yeah.
they're being fucked with, and there's just nothing they can do to stop it.
Yeah, that is pretty chilling. I was thinking in that moment, oh, holy shit, that's crazy. Hey, what if she pulled out 2 Uzis and said, "Get ready to die"?
Yeah.
And then shot them all.
That would have been fucked.
I shot you.
Instead, she's just kind of stunned, sitting there and can't really say anything. I think that's part of what the doll's influence is on the kids, is that they're just kind of on autopilot during all of this.
Yeah, like American Dolls.
For sure.
Don't buy them.
Good guy Satan. Many people are saying this.
Yay! I say it every morning. So what the fuck is happening in this movie?
Right, so Carter off screen kills his wife. It's really loud and disturbing. And then he comes back in and he's got blood all over him, and Harker, says, hey, don't, stop doing, you don't have to do this. And he starts to approach Ruby. And then she takes him out. And then that's when Harker's mom freaks out.
Your ritual's fucked
And,
now.
she because the ritual's fucked now.
It's fucked.
And she
Don't try it again.
points the gun at her mom, and in that moment, she's like clearly not going to stop. She pulls out a very satanic ritual-looking dagger where it's all wiggly. The
Look at
blade
my
is all
dagger.
wiggly. And then she puts a bullet in her mom's head.
Take that, bitch.
Yeah. And then she takes Ruby's hand and says, come on, Ruby, we have to go.
It's time to go.
And before they leave, the last thing we see her do is try to shoot the doll, but the gun won't fire.
Were there enough bullets? You know what I'm saying?
I counted how many shots she fired, and it was not enough to empty that gun, unless it was only partially loaded, and why would it be? So that, in my mind, I was thinking Satan is like, you're not gonna fucking shoot my doll. What are you doing?
Oh.
And he this was the opposite of divine intervention.
You're not going to shoot my doll. I love my fucking doll.
Right. Maybe it's something that she, like, since she was one of the participants or one of the victims in this situation, she, like, physically can't be the person to kill it because her mom shoots her doll. It wasn't
Right.
her.
I think I was just expecting, I don't know if I said this, more Harry Potter.
That's Longlegs.
No. Longlegs is Voldemort. If it was more like Harry Potter. You feel me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Well, Gryffindor, Slytherin, the other ones no one cares about, Hufflepuff, not in this movie at all.
Oh, yeah.
But I do want to say a little bit, I want to talk about Nic Cage as, a monster in this. It's I felt like if he was gonna be like the devil's assistant, he would be more of a supernatural kind of force, you know. And instead the movie kind of made me feel more like he was gonna be a human serial killer. That's really all I'm saying. I did enjoy it. Please don't get me wrong.
I don't think this movie works if Longlegs is not Nic Cage.
I agree with that with my entire body.
Yeah.
It had to be Nic Cage. And man, I appreciated seeing him in this kind of role. I really did.
It'd be crazy.
Yeah.
It would be nice if they kind of made Longlegs more of like a supernatural entity, because they did kind of leave it open for that. But I do think that his performance in this movie, I thought he did a good job while, you know, having some cageisms to it. It didn't move out of the realm of it being unsettling, for me at least. I personally thought that, you know, he still was able to keep up, you know, the tone and stop it from getting into being a little too hammy.
Yeah, it has that sort of that like Super 16 framing.
That kind of reminded me a little bit of Mandy, just the style to it.
I was getting Sinister vibes, if you've ever seen Sinister.
You know what his makeup kind of reminded me of? Have you ever seen Perfect Blue?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so glad you said that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up in my...
Yeah, the stalker guy in that.
Yeah.
Is that like La Blue Girl?
Just really uncanny. Like, his face just looks wrong.
Did you think he would transform like Sailor Moon or Robot?
I was thinking that, not that he would transform, but that he would thematically represent Daddy Longlegs, but that is not the case. Oz Perkins in an interview said that the reason he went with Longlegs is because it just sounded cool. It's just a name that he thinks sounded like a 70s killer.
Well, what the hell? I wanted a Longlegs creature. That's why I watched this. I wanted to see Longlegs things running around, you know, rolling up in balls, looking like balls, looking like critters,
right?
Rolling around, baby.
His legs weren't even that long,
and his legs.
I mean, he's a fairly tall guy. he's not like preternaturally tall.
He's pretty tall.
It kind of just reminded me of a nickname that, you know, some boomer would call somebody that they knew back in the day. President Biden's just like, oh yeah, I used to hang out at the railroad track with.
It's actually Nic Cage's CB handle for his truck driving
Corn
days.
Pop and Longlegs. This Longlegs come back. Yeah, I hear it.
Hey, I gotta say, Steve, no one wants to hear from you. Literally no one. So cool your jets, my friend. Just simmer down. Don't want to hear it. Capiche? Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Honestly, I think that all of your guys' responses really reaffirmed my initial thoughts with it, which is this is something I'm going to enjoy in a home setting where I can watch with friends.
At your old folks' home? Is that where you want to see it?
Yeah, for sure. It sounds good, but it definitely sounds like something I don't think I would enjoy in the theater. I think I will enjoy in a home space more.
Yes, you would enjoy surrounded by elderly people. Gotcha. Cool.
Yeah, it's a tough sell if you know that the people in your theater are going to be shitheads, especially because the movie is really, really quiet. So having any kind of whispering or people checking their phones or like the, crinkling of wrappers is just, it's going to fuck with the
my whole
atmosphere.
thing is like in the theater setting, I always just feel
How
a little
does
bit
it
like
hold
tense. I
up
don't want
to
to react. I
Titanfall?
don't want to allow myself to react. I just want to watch the movie. So like when I'm home, I feel like I can be more engaged in a movie. And so like if I go to the theaters, I don't mind watching something that's like an action movie or like a family movie or something like that, because they're just meant to like be visually enjoyed, not really explicit emotional reactions.
Well, this movie's been out of the theaters forever now. That's why I'm editing it right now, like months later, whatever. So it's irrelevant. No one cares because you can't see it in the theater. It's not possible anymore.
Me too. I was worried about that.
Well, sorry.
There's like three jump scares in the whole movie, I think.
There are some jump scares, indeed. There are. So please be aware, if you see Longlegs, there are jump scares in it.
Yeah. It like 4x'd its budget.
And it 4x'd.
Yeah.
It 4x'd its budget. Made money.
Yeah, look out for Neon this year, man. They're crushing it.
They probably released like 5 movies since we recorded this. So go watch them.
Oh, did you want to give it a score? I'm curious.
I was going to make a joke, but yeah, I'm going to give it, the 3.5, just like Arcadian.
Wow. So it's the same movie as Arcadian, then?
Yeah, essentially.
Yeah. You just watched Arcadian twice, and you're like, wow, this Longlegs thing is pretty similar to Arcadian.
I mean, kinda.
No, I totally... I thought you were going to be lower than that based on how you were reacting to it before, when you responded to my review.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I said something here about expectations. I went into Arcadian with virtually 0 expectations and was pleasantly surprised. And
Well, I'm glad.
yeah, and then Longlegs, I went in with extremely high expectations, expecting a different kind of movie. That's really it. And I think
Sheesh.
I got to watch it again to reassess and formulate a better opinion. Because it wasn't the movie I wanted.
Yeah.
But maybe it was the movie I needed. Huh. So that's why I gave it a 3.5. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm very excited to watch it again
Oh, yeah.
at home.
You can watch it at the old folks' home with Steve.
Yeah, no, I'm waiting for it to come to Blu-ray, for sure.
Well, Nick, it's time to give up your score. What score would you give to Daddy Nicolas Cage Longlegs? Tell me.
I'm a 5. I'm a 5 all day.
Woo!
Oh, yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, I've been thinking about this movie nonstop since I saw it, and it just will not leave my brain.
Excellent. Sean, why don't you go ahead and tell me what you thought?
I will rate it a 4.75.
Ooh.
I thought it was a fantastic movie. I do think that as a murder mystery serial killer type movie, the way the answers to some of the mysteries I felt seemed a bit too easy with the supernatural elements, so that knocked it down a little bit for me. But I do think that this is one of Nick's best performances in a long time.
Yeah, I thought he was stellar in this. I mean, I've been watching Nic Cage movies for about as long as I can remember. I've never been afraid of him before, but he genuinely unsettled and disturbed me with this performance. He was really, really creepy.
Mm-hmm. There was another movie that I felt like he was disturbing in, but anyway, I just feel like Nick intentionally didn't want to hurt people.
Yeah. He said also that this was the last serial killer he'll ever play.
Okay.
It makes sense because he was channeling his mother for this role. There's an interview he did with the AP. I'll link it to you guys. It's a really good interview. He talks about how this role, like the way that he built the character of Longlegs was by channeling his mother and like the weird shit that she used to do.
Yeah.
That's not very nice, Mom.
Yeah.
You're talking about the other horror movie he played the villain? That was, are you talking about Bringing Out the Dead?
No, you idiot. It wasn't
Do we
that
think
one.
that...
Jesus. Grow up.
Guarding Tess.
No. Get him out of here. Please? Someone? Anyone? That's unacceptable. You guys think I'm kidding. I don't want to see this man's face or hear his voice anymore. Get him out. Now.
Do we think that there's going to be a Longlegs Halloween costume?
Oh, absolutely.
I should go to Spirit Halloween.
Yeah.
They should have one.
Yes.
By now. I mean...
If Neon's smart.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's like...
Yeah, for sure.
Halloween's in 2 weeks.
Oz Perkins is not the type of dude to do sequels, but if he were to do one, I think the continuing adventures of Agent Lee Harker would be something I'd be sitting down for day one, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Longlegs 2, The Squeakquel. How do you feel about that?
Oh, yeah.
Chipmunks reference. I mean, he did do G-Force. Forcefully. In my G-spot.
We could talk about Poppy Plant.
About what? Poppy plants? Robert Plant?
That's so true. I completely forgot about that.
I have no idea what I said there. My God. In all seriousness, Nick, thank you for being a part of this podcast. You really woke me up to some important points about Longlegs, and I am sorry that I have completely and utterly destroyed the last portion of this episode. I hope you can forgive me and find some entertainment value in it. And I would like you to come back sometime and be a guest on Late Night Cage Fight. And after Nick responds, you guys can go ahead and give your final thoughts as well, or not.
Oh, I would love to. Anytime you want to talk Cage, I'm down to talk about Cage.
It's a great movie. Should all go see it, and I'm definitely going to be checking out some of his other films.
I highly recommend The Blackcoat's Daughter.
Good. Excellent.
And with that, we're going to end our review of Longlegs. Thank you all for listening. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Late Night Cage Fight. We'll see you next time. Be cool. Go ahead, Steve. Say the famous words.
Cage out.
Cage out.